Hi there, you're listening to the first ever episode of the Scene to Screen Film Podcast. I'm Kieran McLean, and joining me is my good pal AJ Tarrant.
How's it going?
In this first episode, we're going to look at the amazing year ahead and pick out our top 5 most anticipated films of 2018. We're going to take it in turns to count down our list and then kind of discuss and share our thoughts about each choice. So AJ, why don't you kick us off with your number 5?
Right, so coming in number 5 is Annihilation. Alex Garland's new project. Really good current director. I'm so glad he moved into directing. Definitely one that I'm looking forward to. I mean, Ex Machina, debatably the greatest Black Mirror episode never made, and undoubtedly one of the best sci-fi films of the decade. So this new one is based on the works of Jeff Vandermeer, the stylings of the new weird genre that Vandermeer kind of worked within, which is a nice sort of blend of fantasy and horror and sci-fi. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that all meshes on the small screen, and I'll come back to that point in a second. So the cast is looking great. Natalie Portman, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Oscar Isaac, Benedict Wong. I love all of those actors. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they work together and where the plot goes. I haven't looked too much into it just because I want to go in just completely blind. The only downside is, much like Garland, I'm disappointed that it's not getting a theatrical release overseas. The Americans, bunch of lucky people, they're getting it, but sadly we won't. We get it straight to Netflix. But nonetheless, although it'll be losing that certain sort of filmic quality, I think hopefully the filmmaking and the story will shine through. This is easily, in my top 5 anticipated for the year.
Yeah, because Annihilation is one of those films where you look at the trailer and it looks perfectly suited for a cinematic release and for a theatrical release, but the fact that it's going straight to Netflix in the UK, it's a bit of a disappointment really, just because, like I say, Ex Machina was so good on the big screen, and this director, he makes films for the big screen. So surely it's got to be disappointing for him that it's going straight to Netflix in certain areas of the world. But yeah, touching on what you said, the cast, I think it looks incredible. I've heard great things about the books, although I've not read them myself. And then just kind of like hearing things from people that have seen it and seeing what it kind of looks like. And again, just it's the director of Ex Machina. There's enough faith there for it to be in anyone's anticipated list. It didn't make mine. But it's definitely a film I'm looking forward to and excited to see, hopefully pretty soon on Netflix. So yeah, I'll quickly move on to my number 5, which will probably piss off a lot of people. But at number 5, I've got Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, which I'm sure will lose a lot of people just because when that first film came out, a lot of people I know were kind of divided. I know some people that love Fantastic Beasts and others that really don't like what it added to J.K. Rowling's Wizarding World. I was really happy with the first film. I don't think it took anything away from the Harry Potter films. In fact, I would argue that it only made the world more interesting and more real. So for the sequel, I couldn't be more excited to see what J.K. Rowling has added, and everything we're hearing about Dumbledore's role and all that kind of stuff, it's piqued my interest. It looks like we're moving into the darker side of this world, which I think is the right direction for the Fantastic Beasts franchise. When the Harry Potter films got darker, they kind of got more interesting, I feel. So I think that's the right direction for this newer franchise as well. I just can't wait for that first trailer because then I'll get to see what direction they're heading and I'll know if it was stupid to have put it in this list or not. But right now, looking at the list of 2018 films, this is definitely one of the ones that I'm looking forward to the most.
See, I'm kind of split on Fantastic Beasts too, because the thing I liked most about the first one was the world building. I thought that they added a lot to the Harry Potter universe. It was great seeing what it was like over in America with their whole sort of society and culture. But my least favourite part of it was Johnny Depp as Grindelwald. I was really disappointed because I loved Colin Farrell. But to be honest, I still think it'll be worth a watch. I think it's Jude Law as Dumbledore, right?
Yeah, Jude Law's jumping in there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sounds like an interesting choice. So, yeah, I mean, I'm still fairly interested to see where they go with it. Right, I'll go in with my number 4, which is 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, which is Martin McDonagh's new project. I loved In Bruges, I loved Seven Psychopaths, and this looks like he's going even further down the road of extreme melding of dark humour and drama, which went through the other 2 films. First time I saw In Bruges, I was expecting a comedy, and it definitely was not just a comedy. It was a really weird, twisted sort of drama with lots of black comedy, and from the looks of it, 3 Billboards is just that, but up to 11. We've got a great cast. We've got Sam Rockwell and Woody Harrelson returning from Seven Psychopaths, and we've got Frances McDormand in the main role. She always hands in a stellar performance, and this, to be honest, looks like it could be a standout role for her, and that's saying something considering that she's an Oscar winner. So I think that this could be McDonagh's best film to date, and luckily it is coming out very soon here, so I'm going to be catching that as soon as it's out.
Yeah, that's definitely one that I'm booking my tickets for as soon as possible. I think Frances McDormand, her performance, just looking at the trailers, her performance looks exceptional. It looks like a really good, emotional kind of, one of those strangely dark humour, like you said, one of those kind of performances. Obviously, Woody Harrelson's always great, Sam Rockwell. And yeah, I've only seen the trailer once. I didn't want to rewatch it and kind of see what it's about. I've never seen the trailer in a theatre. But it's definitely a film that I'm interested in seeing. I've heard good things about the film. So yeah, it's not one that I've looked into too much, but it's definitely something that I'm interested in and something that I really want to see and something that hopefully I'm going to see really soon. So yeah, I'll just jump straight into my number 4, which is Deadpool 2. Just because when the first Deadpool film came out and we started to hear that it was great, I was so happy because this is a really cool character, and I always thought Ryan Reynolds would do a great job as Deadpool. And then I saw the first film, and like most other people, I loved it, and I thought it was probably the best superhero film of that year, even better than Captain America Civil War. So obviously, jumping into the sequel, I'm really excited to see what they've been able to do. We're getting Cable and Domino in this one, and from everything we've seen so far, with that Bob Ross kind of trailer, Deadpool 2 will be as big and successful as the original. I do think it's important to note that at the same time, a sequel does a lot of the time struggle to find the same magic as the original, which is what I think happened with Guardians Volume 2. So while I'm excited to see Deadpool 2, a little piece of me is worried that people won't react to the second film as well as they did the first. Lightning doesn't often strike twice, but I guess we'll have to wait and see if Deadpool can pull it off for a second time.
See, it's funny you mention Guardians 2, because what I'm hoping for Deadpool 2 is that it has the same effect on me as Guardians 2 did. I, unlike most people I know, I wasn't actually a big fan of either the first Guardians or the first Deadpool. I liked them and I respected them as for what they were doing, but a lot of the comedy didn't really wash with me. And I think, they're very reliant on the comedy, so if I didn't have that going, I kind of knew, it wasn't going to make that effect on me. But when I saw Guardians 2, I really liked what they did. It sold me on the franchise. I liked how in-depth they went with the characters, and they brought in new settings and new actors, and it won me over. So I'm really hoping the same thing happens with Deadpool 2. Right, so I'll go for my number 3, which is I Love Dogs. Which is the first of 2 Andersons on this list. So we've got another great cast. We've got Bryan Cranston, Edward Norton, Bill Murray, Jeff Goldblum. Frances McDormand also turns up in this one. And if those names, aren't getting you interested to see what they're going to be doing playing stop motion dogs, what more do you want from a film? It sounds great. And Anderson's already got experience with stop motion. He's got a very unique take on it, so I'm interested to see where he takes this sort of film. It's his second stop motion, so he's going to have a more kind of refined sense of sort of animation, I think. I think it's going to be a fascinating and singular movie. And I've also heard that it's meant to be influenced by the work of Akira Kurosawa, one of my favourite directors. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that is realised within the film as well.
Yeah, this is it's a film that until recently I wasn't too aware of it. Obviously, it's a great director, great cast. I think that first trailer, which I just watched yesterday, I think that really sells the film really well. It looks very different from what anyone's ever seen before. Obviously, Fantastic Mr. Fox is a great stop motion animation film, and I think this one could be even better. The trailer is creepy, it's funny. I find all the dogs creepy, especially in that new poster which was released. But yeah, the style of the film looks really creative, and more than anything, I think it's just a really unique and interesting story. And obviously, I think it's going to be worth the watch when it finally lands in theatres. So yeah, jumping into my number 3, I've got Ready Player One. Which is on this list basically just because it's a Steven Spielberg film with a great cast and a great concept. I feel like that's really all you need to know to get excited about Ready Player One. And having read the book, and I'm saying that because I don't really read many books, so I'm proud of the fact that I've read this one, I know that Steven Spielberg will probably do a fantastic job at telling this story. And having seen the trailers, it's really fun to see that he's bringing small nods to other franchises. You can see the DeLorean, the Iron Giants in there. I think Joker and Harley Quinn appear in the latest trailer. So yeah, Ready Player One's going to be like Nerd Christmas, and I can't wait to see what Steven Spielberg brings to the cinema when it finally lands in the cinema.
Yeah, I mean, this feels like, or it looks like Spielberg kind of firing on all cylinders. I mean, it's funnily enough, it's one of his 2 films of this year, from what I can tell. He's done that other drama film, which I can't remember the details of, but that's doing well so far in terms of reviews. And that feels like this year is like he's showing both of his sides at once. And this is like he's taken like a lot of the ideas that have run through like his other films, and he's just kind of like going full guns and just saying like, right, I'm just going to make the biggest, most sort of crazy film like I can. So I really respect that. For my number 2, I have Guillermo del Toro's The Shape of Water. Now, I wasn't actually a huge fan of Pan's Labyrinth, which is kind of heresy to some people. Don't get me wrong, I really respect the film, and I think the world building is, completely on point. He's got a lot of creativity. His collaborations are always fascinating. It's a shame about PT. That kind of got me reinterested in Del Toro's work. So just from having seen just some of the basic press material for The Shape of Water, I got this feeling about it. And I think this could be the Del Toro film that really wins me over. And I had the same feeling about Mother, which ended up being my favourite film of 2017. I didn't watch any press materials. I just went in there and just experienced it. And that's kind of what I'm hoping is going to happen with The Shape of Water. I mean, you got Michael Shannon on board as well, who I believe is playing the villain or a villainous character. So to me, that only makes me anticipate it more. So I'm not sure when we get this. I think it's February. And yeah, I can't wait.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think we get it in February. And yeah, agree with most of your points. I think for me, Guillermo del Toro is a hit and miss director. Pan's Labyrinth, I thought it was okay. I didn't really like Pacific Rim. I thought Crimson Peak was terrible. So yeah, he's really hit and miss, but the trailers for this film look fantastic. I think Michael Shannon's performance looks really interesting, and just kind of everything we're seeing from The Shape of Water and everything we're hearing is kind of telling us that it's a really unique, really different kind of film that might pull on those heartstrings, but it looks like a very different kind of film from Guillermo del Toro, and I'm really interested to see what he's been able to do with this concept, because the concept, at least looking at the trailer, seems really cool, and hopefully he's pulled it off, and from everything I've heard, he has pulled it off. So it's definitely something I'm interested in seeing, and hopefully I'll get to see it in February. So yeah, I'll jump straight into my number 2, which is a Marvel film. It might not be the Marvel film that a lot of people expect to be at number 2, because it's Avengers Infinity War. Just because, as a massive comic book fan and someone who's mostly liked every installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, even Age of Ultron, I think Avengers Infinity War is what I've been waiting for since we saw Thanos at the end of the Avengers in 2012. I never thought we'd reach a point where we'd see characters like Iron Man and weirder characters like Groot and Rocket occupy the same space, but here we are and it's finally happening. It's going to be mind-blowing to see all of these characters together. You've got the Guardians, they're going to finally meet the Avengers, which alone is enough to warrant a place on this list. But then you've also got Spider-Man, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, not to mention any surprises that Marvel has up its sleeve. And then you've also got to think, as morbid as this sounds, we're going to finally get to see some beloved characters die, which might be a weird thing to want, but it will make this entire universe feel more epic and more real. If we see someone like Cap or Iron Man die, it'll feel like this universe has some real consequences, which other than Yondu, I think has been missing from this universe. And I think it'll only benefit the next 10 years of Marvel films if we see some majorly bad things happen to some really good characters in Avengers Infinity War. I could talk about why I'm excited for this film for decades, but I'm going to cut myself off there. That's at my number 2.
Yeah, I mean, Infinity War is just one of those big, big films. And sometimes I can be a little bit suspicious of those films, but with Infinity War, I think they really have a chance to kind of cement how big they are as a cinematic universe. I mean, they're pretty much the first of their kinds, and in some ways they've been outstretched by others. But Thanos is my favourite Marvel character. He's got a lot of depth to him. I like the angle they're going, where they're giving, he's not just a villain, he is a character. You know, he could even be considered like an anti-hero. I mean, he certainly is by his own definition. And if they're actually going to kill some people off, then having Thanos, that's great. And them daring to do that, like you said about Yondu, that's part of the reason I like Guardians 2 so much, is because it dared. And that's what I'm hoping to see, is an adventurous Marvel film. My number 1, I had to put this as my number 1. It's the other Anderson, Paul Thomas. He's back, finally. After Inherent Vice in 2014, I felt like Inherent Vice was not quite a hiccup, but it wasn't quite as powerful as The Master, which preceded it, The Master and There Will Be Blood. And, of course, we've got Daniel Day-Lewis back again. So, Paul Thomas Anderson and Daniel Day-Lewis, they're working again. This is Daniel Day-Lewis's last film, supposedly, before his retirement. So I think he's really going to sort of go full guns for this. I've got to say, the initial plot details when I heard, I felt a little bit kind of let down. I thought it was going to be maybe something a bit weirder. But as I sort of looked into it more, I think he's keeping a lot of information from us. And I am a big Paul Thomas Anderson fan. He's one of my favourite directors. And I think that whatever he does with the material, I think it's going to be fantastic. He's great with character studies, as we've seen a number of times. I'm thinking particularly The Master and There Will Be Blood. And Daniel Day-Lewis he's the primo character study actor. 3 Oscars, can't really turn your nose up at that. So I have no doubts that I will end up really enjoying Phantom Thread, and that's why it's my number 1 spot.
Yeah, because when you get 2 guys like these 2 guys together, it's not often something like that happens. Every time we've seen them work together in the past, it's been amazing. On paper, I don't think The Phantom Thread reads like it's going to be a good film, but then you see the trailer and you kind of get what it's kind of about. The character's kind of got this darkness in him, and everything just seems to work when you watch that trailer. And you don't think it's going to work, but then you watch it, and by the end of the trailer, you want to go see the film right then. Just like every other film both of these guys have done in the past, it's drawing you in, and I really can't wait to see what they've been able to do with this concept that doesn't really seem like it would work. But like I said, hopefully it does, and I can't wait to see. It surely seems like he'll be getting another Oscar for that one. I don't really doubt that. So yeah, I'll jump into my number one, which is another Marvel film that's coming out this year, Black Panther. Because I truly believe that at the end of 2018, we'll be looking back and we'll be talking about Black Panther as the best Marvel film ever and one of the best superhero films of all time. That's how good I think this film is going to be. And if you don't believe me, all you have to do is look at the cast. You've got Chadwick Boseman, Michael B. Jordan, Lupita Nyong'o, Forrest Whitaker, and then at the centre of the film you have Ryan Coogler as the director. This is the guy that made Creed, which is in my top 10 films of all time. This is possibly the most impressive lineup of actors and filmmakers Marvel has ever put together. And then you have to think about the significance of Black Panther and of an all-black cast. This will finally give all those kids out there a superhero to look up to, and they'll finally be able to say, hey, that guy looks like me. This film is going to do so much good for society, but I think it's also just going to be a very good, really fun and engaging installment of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good year for me personally for Marvel films because Thanos is my favourite overall character, but if we're just talking like of the heroes of the Marvel Universe, Black Panther, T'Challa, he was always my favourite. I think, he's got this... He's almost as close as we get in Marvel to Batman, apart from obviously a couple of notable examples. T'Challa, he's a very sort of detailed character. He's not just your straight hero. He's got this whole sense of like loyalty to his country, but also to the planet as a hero. And he has to kind of leave his home country and then come back. And you get this sense that he knows where he kind of like wants to belong, but he has this higher calling. But of course, in this first one, we're going to see him in his homeland, like being the hero of his people, which is the best way to introduce him. Michael B. Jordan, I've heard rumors about his performance. I'm really excited for that as well. It'll probably end up being my favorite Marvel film of the year as well, like if not one of my favorites, like overall.
Yeah, just because I think looking at the slate of Marvel films we've got this year, and obviously we don't know much about Ant-Man and the Wasp just yet, so basically just with Avengers and then Black Panther, it's kind of like you've got the big spectacle film with Avengers Infinity War, but then with Black Panther you seem to have this more personal kind of story following T'Challa, and that seems more engaging for me personally. Like I say, I think it's just going to be a really great story, and I think Ryan Coogler is the perfect guy to tell that story. And like you said, just seeing Wakanda and the importance of that society and that kind of place is going to be really great to see in the Marvel Universe, because it's not just another New York City or LA, it's something we've never seen in this universe before. And when you've been going for as long as the Marvel Cinematic Universe has, it's always great to introduce new places and new concepts. So yeah, that's another reason I'm really excited for Black Panther. And that's my number one most anticipated film of the year, which I think rounds us out for the episode.
Does indeed.
So yeah, that's it for the first ever episode of the Scene to Screen podcast. We're going to be around every single week, so check back with us in the next few episodes, and we'll see you later.
Right. Catch you guys in the next episode.